Hi, everybody. David Allen here. You all probably know who I am. And I'm sitting with someone who feels like an old friend already, although probably Mark hasn't been that long, but it seems that we've got a lot of miles on our tires, as we say, but between us. Mark Tigchelaar. And Mark is a brilliant guy. We met in a restaurant. You can tell us about your story of how you ran across me. But Mark, why don't I hand it over to you to let the folks know, what would you like people to know about Mark Tigchelaar and what you're doing, how you got there, whatever?
Well, first of all, I'm impressed how you pronounce my last name, because that's not easy. But yeah, my name is Mark Tigchelaar indeed, and I'm a psychologist. And I'm severely dyslexic, and that's the base of my story. Like, I want to learn how does my brain work, because it didn't work. And I struggled a lot with my study, and I wanted to do it all, but I couldn't do it. So I did a lot of speed reading, a little mind mapping, memory training, and eventually came to the conclusion, well, the real solution, at least for myself, is focus management. And understanding the basics of focus helped me to increase my study, but moreover get a peace of mind. So that's in a nutshell my backstory.
Yeah, well, let's fast forward and we can backtrack the story as well, but fast forward. So now you're doing what? And now there's the Focus Academy. And so give us a sort of current reality for Mark and your work.
Yeah, so I'm the co-owner and co-founder of Focus Academy together with Oscar de Bos, who's sitting behind the scenes here.
Hi, Oscar.
The camera. And we founded Focus Academy to help people to get a grip on focus. We write a lot of books on that. We recently came with a new book, Focus Bites, currently only in Dutch, but we expect the English version soon. And we give a lot of training, so that's what we do. So it's totally similar to a GTD company as well, helping people to master the topic of focus.
And that can't have been such a smooth journey for you to get from back there to where you are now.
No, for sure not.
What are some of the milestones?
Well, yeah, the first milestone was a personal one, to not overcome my dyslexia, because I'm still dyslexic, but at least deal with the symptoms of being dyslexic. And that worked really well for me personally. Then I moved from, share with my friends in the pub. Like, they asked me, like, I'm not dyslexic, but hey, I want to do what you do with your study. Because for my study psychology, it stated you need 40 hours a week to complete that study. I could now do it in 8. So my fellow students, like, I want to do the same. So over a beer, the first trainings start, and that moved really quickly to formal trainings. But then I met Oscar a few years later, and we wanted to help people with reading. Reading was my main thing in the beginning, once again relating to the dyslexic part. And we found a way to increase people's reading speed from a screen, which especially reading from a screen is quite difficult to do. So we found Focus Reader, and it was an amazing tool, and we were really amazed by what it could do, but it didn't work. Because we found out that even judges, who their job is to read a document and based on their reading give their verdict, they don't have a problem with reading, they have a problem with focus. So that mismatch of that product, that it didn't succeed in the real world, that led us to the conclusion the real problem here is focus. How do you manage all the distractions? How do you make sure you overcome all those distractions? If you can do that, then you have a better personal life, but a better professional life.
Well, let me back up a little bit. I took a speed reading course, Alpha Learning actually it was called, many years ago, Steve Snyder. And that was great. It was really all about understanding, like, we see a word psychology, you don't see it broken down into all the letters and the syllables. You just see psychology, I know what that is. And so in a way, you're able to focus, the more you were able to focus on a larger context of what's in the text, then you could clump, then you could do that. So is that similar to what you either experienced or what didn't work?
Well, that's exactly the technical aspect of speed reading. So that's totally, we have the same approach. But even if you help people to do so, and even with our software tool that enables you to do it without following any training, so you're instantly reading faster, that was not a real problem for people, because the judges that we spoke, they told us, well, I'm so often interrupted nowadays, I don't have the peace of mind to dive deep anymore. So like, hey, maybe that's the real issue here, not even the technical parts of reading faster. Although we thought that was the problem, it wasn't.
Huh. So I can't help but sort of tie that into GTD and the getting things done stuff, because obviously, we came up with the methodology, or uncovered, or just recognized the methodology of how do you stop your brain chatter.
Yeah.
So that's the interruption from the inside, but you deal a lot with the interruption from the outside.
Both, yeah, exactly. But that's, most people think, oh, my phone is such a big distractor, or my email is a big distractor. Well, your own mind, as you well know, is a bigger distractor than your email and your phone combined. But helping people with the external distractors as well, external stimuli as well, is part of the solution, I think, as well. So it's both. I think both is important.
Well, you have a lot of good data, that I didn't really dig down into to get myself, but you've been a great researcher in this whole area in terms of how much time it takes to get back into focus when you get distraction. So share with the folks some of the data.
I love to share the data. We both have a fascination for that. So just some random facts. On average, per day, we're getting over 200 interruptions per day. That's external, the interruption. So not only that does not include your own mind. Every time that we do get distracted, the physical aspect of recovering is 64 seconds. But the actual time to recover from an interruption is over 20 minutes. Because what happens, most people think, oh, I'm in my focus bubble, I'm doing my thing. You're getting a WhatsApp message, like, oh, I'm answering a text message. And most people think, well, I'm now distracted anyway, let's check my email in between as well. Let's check Facebook, let's check, on average we do 2 other things after an interruption before returning to the original task.
So you get sucked into the rabbit trails.
Exactly.
Right.
It's exactly. And one distraction triggers the next distraction. And because of that, during that recovering time, your brain does not operate at full capacity. It's called attention residue. Part of your brain deals with the distraction, while the other part of your brain tries to remember what you were doing in the first place.
Where you left off.
Exactly. And after you dealt with the distraction, you try to refine where you were in the document, while the other part of your brain still needs to let go of that simple WhatsApp message. So you're not fully present, or you cannot fully engage if you're, after distraction, returning to the original task.
Interesting, because it's really true that when you think about something, there's a lot of context around what you're thinking about, even if it's as simple as a WhatsApp message or reading a judicial document or whatever. There's a lot of other spin that's happening there that's making it make more sense, or giving you more of a sense of context, or making it more interesting, or whatever. So so I get it. It's not like a simple on-off.
Exactly. We tend to think so. Oh, it only requires about 5 seconds of my time to answer that text message, so let me do it straight away. But it's not 5 seconds. It's on average 20 minutes recovering time.
Right.
And that's the challenge here, and it's really addictive as well.
Right.
On a social level, if I answer, we're praised by speed. If you're answering a text message or an email instantly, well done. But the real cost of that, we don't talk about it that much.
Right. So can we fast forward a little bit to solutions? You're not going to stop all those inputs coming in.
No.
Right. So what do you do?
So it would be very easy indeed to go to the mountains,
Yeah.
being offline.
Right.
And
Rice bowl and cave.
and that's your life. That will be wonderful for focus, but you get your coworkers will not appreciate it, your clients will not appreciate it, your friends and family and folks around you will not appreciate it. So it's a split between being available and being focused. And it's not one of the other, because if you're a monk, that will be easy for your focus, but it might be a little bit boring. If you're available all the time, that will be very inconvenient for your focus. So it's finding a balance, depending on your personality, depending on your job demands. How often do you want to be offline, and how do you make sure you arrange that without making mistakes or without missing important things? So one of the things that I personally like to do, having my out of office reply on while I'm still at work. Hey, I'm working on a new book. If it's really important, give me a call. Otherwise, I will reply to your email after 12 o'clock. Very basic, it works really well. Well, that's one aspect of dealing with distractions, but the challenge here is, if talking about solutions, one real quick tip is not the real answer here, because it's, as you understand from your work, it's a whole process. It's a whole understanding how your brain deals with input. And one tip might work well for someone, and the same tip doesn't really work well for another person. So it's understanding the foundation, how your brain deals with distraction. I think that's the most important aspect to understand.
To that point, have you noticed significant differences based upon people's personality types, based upon their attention spans, based upon their DNA, based upon their astrology?
Political views. Well, fascinating, no. So you would think that people if you're dyslexic, or when you experience or having HAD or ADD or autism spectrum, you would have a different brain focus-wise. For sure, there are differences on that level. Absolutely true. But in our work, we found out there are some few fundamentals that are universal. It doesn't really matter if we went to South Korea, to the partner you already, that you know as well. And we found out that the challenges people face there with distractions are absolutely the same as here in the Netherlands or elsewhere. So there are some universal things that apply to everyone. The one challenge or the one change that I do come across is that nowadays people need more stimuli. You can see it in youngsters having a conversation with one earpod in. So we're having a conversation, but I'm still listening to music. Why? Or now with the old movies that were really slow, movies nowadays go really fast. We have a tendency to process more stimuli per second. Netflix now has the option to fast forward the movie. Not at 100%, but 125%. Some podcast applications now have the option, not 100% speed, but 125 speed. So you can more easily process the information. You can almost call it dopamine inflation. We need more stimuli.
Well, I'm curious about that, because for years, one of the reasons, one of the most relaxing places to be in the world is in nature. Why? It's so complex.
Yeah.
I mean, if really we want to go nuts, sit in a room with no stimulus, no color, nothing. So in a way, maybe to some degree, our lives have become so unnatural that all that stimulus is just in a same way like nature. Nature is relaxing because most of that stimulus doesn't require you to do anything about it. You just get to enjoy it. You get to have that. That's why I like sitting in restaurants that have multiple horizons, so that it's not just me and Catherine looking at each other the whole time. We get to scan the horizon. We get to do that. So, to what degree do you think that might be true? Is that
absolutely true, 100%. There was a fascinating study being done. I don't know, a few years ago. I forgot the date. where people were asked, it was so fascinating, oh, you want to participate in the research? It's fascinating, thank you. We have to take in your phone, your wallet, so you have nothing with you. Oh, and I'm so sorry, the previous research runs a little bit late, so you have to wait in this room for about an hour. Oh, and by the way, there are some electric cables here from the previous research. If you touch them, you get an electric shock. You're not going to die, but it's really harmful. See you in about an hour. So sorry. We're more than happy to pay you extra. 74% of the men were really curious about electric cables. Well, you could interpret that in many different ways, but the researchers came to the conclusion that being alone with your own thoughts, and that's it in a very stimulus-poor environment, people go nuts. So they tend to prefer painful stimuli rather than no stimuli. And you can now see it also in the day-to-day experiences. People scan social media not for the content, but to experience a new stimuli. Just not really looking at the video, just scrolling through the videos. And it's not about the content, it's about the dopamine kick or the stimuli kick, rather than being alone with your own thoughts.
Right. And it's funny, your own thoughts, I mean, I read years ago, who knows how they counted, that we have about 50,000 thoughts a day. You know, people complain about 100 emails. I go, well, you know, just pay attention to what's going on in your head. That's, you know, email's nothing, you know, compared to the mind chatter and the monkey chatter, you know, that goes on in our heads. So is your work now, does it have anything to do with changing that mind chatter, or just changing your context and changing your logistics so that you're not at effect of that? So
I think the latter. We found out, well, our vision on Vocus is actually the fifth step of your work, engage. So you cleared the path, you now want to engage. How do you engage? And that fifth step is all about, that's what we focus on in our work. How do you do that? And our vision is the moment you switch your attention, you're out. It's game over. Because the moment that you switch, you're paying the price of attention residue. You need to recover from that. And during that recovering time, you're not fully present, making more mistakes, you experience more cortisol, and all the bad things you want to avoid. So the main thing is about, in our work at least, is minimize the number of switches that you make during the day without missing important stuff. So once again, you don't want to shut down your computer, your phone, or whatever. You want to be living in the real world, but minimizing the switches that you make during the day. And in our work, we found out there are 4 reasons why we switch with our attention. And the most obvious one is too many external stimuli, too many phone calls, too many WhatsApp messages, too many emails, those kind of switches. So once again, we try to minimize those. Internal stimuli is your line of work, too many chatter in your own mind. If you don't close down or shut down that chatter or control that chatter, you're constantly switching. The third concentration leak, in our opinion, is too little fuel or too little energy. If you're really tired, your brain is unable to make the right decision between what's important and what's not important, and therefore you don't control the switching, and therefore you're losing your focus. And the fourth concentration leak we call engagement, which is different than engage in your line of work, is how interesting is the task at hand. If someone speaks really slowly about a topic, well, it doesn't require long for you to switch off, or something is too boring or too simple, we can easily switch up with our attention. So those 4 concentration leaks form a framework to work with to engage for the task at hand, with the main goal of minimizing the switch that you make during the day.
So external stimuli, internal distraction, fatigue, and lack of interest, or boring material, or not engaging material.
Yeah, and the trick is, let's say you're having a boring Zoom call, how do you make that engaging? And yes, you are fatigued, how do you recharge? Yes, you have internal chatter. How do you shut it down? Yes, you have a lot of people demanding your attention. How do you deal with that? So that's the game. That's the playing field of our vision, at least, of focus.
And you don't have to give any names, but what kind of success or feedback, at least anecdotal, are you getting with your work, your training, your materials out there in the world?
Yeah, well, focus, after following a training, you understand how it works for yourself. So you have a personal focus plan, and it gives a grip on focus. So you have more control over your day instead of experience it and being in reactive mode. If you're now more in control, more proactive. So this is the biggest feedback that we get. Secondly, it reduces stress. Distraction and stress are very closely intertwined. We tend to think, well, WhatsApp message is fun, or a new email could potentially be, well, interesting at least. But every time that we switch our attention, cortisol is being released in the body, even though the content might be fun. Doesn't really matter. The switching itself is stressful for the brain. So reducing those number of switches, once again, by gaining control of your focus, reduces your stress levels tremendously. And of course, focus gives a boost to your productivity. But it's way more than that. It's not just productivity. That's one aspect. But controlling your stress levels is equally important.
Sure. So, you know, most people in my work, and probably in yours too, people think focus, that just means work harder, focus more on work, as opposed to, hey, can we just have a beer? So that we're focused on how good the beer is, or the
Instead
conversation that we're having.
Wandering off to whatever,
Right.
and or being distracted by the phone, or how often nowadays you see people and checking their phone and still having some sort of a conversation. It's not being fully present. So focus equals being present, and that's a good thing.
So what's the future for the Focus Academy and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, for us it's going digital. That's our biggest step currently. We're now launching our international courses, our live streams. That's the big step. We're already doing that for some clients, but now we're going to do it full blown. And well, the mission that we have is helping people get a grip on focus. So we made this very short mini course that I've sent you as well, called griponfocus.com, where people can try out the foundations, or introduce themselves to the foundations of focus, and understand the 4 concentration leaks that we just talked about, and also do a little focus quick scan to see what are my dominant concentration leaks. And that helps people to have an understanding how it works, because focus, as you know as well, is really personal. Although the fundamentals are always the same, similar to GTD, it's always the same, but how you fine-tune it and adapt it to your own personal life and your own business life, that's totally personal. But that's the vision that we have, to make it, to help more and more people around this topic, because it's such an important topic in the area that we live in.
Is there anything left to discover or uncover in your mind about the concentration leaks, or just, you know, how this thing works up here, and how it affects focus?
It's a never-ending story, and this is one of the reasons why I'm totally in love with this topic. Every new week there are new researchers, new data that uncovers, like, oh, this is a new discovery that you can. That's what being a geek. That's what I love. But yeah, I think on hormone level there are some. It's a fascinating topic that there will be more and more revelations about. I think the concentration leaks are similar to the GTD framework. Is pretty solid, so I don't think there are any changes.
And most of that, I would imagine, just validates what your basic principles anyway.
Yeah, the basic principles are always, luckily for us, and and your works, it's validated, so that really helps. But there's, well, in our new book, Focus Bites, we discovered 10 new research data, and that translated into practical life hacks. And we expect every week that there will be more and more and more of those new revelations, because it's a never-ending story, luckily.
Yay. Very cool. So tell me about your, just because there are a lot of people that are watching this that are probably GTDers or, are familiar with me and my stuff. How'd you come across me? How'd you come across GTD? And what was your experience?
When I was 15 years old, I believe 15 or maybe 17, my father was already into personal development, and my father gave me a very little book called, in Dutch, Doe het nu, the translation of your work, and was your book. And years later, I heard that you gave a seminar in Amsterdam, the city that I live in as well. I want to go to that seminar, and I was sitting in the front row, and a few friends and more friends came as well. So I was moved a bit more to the side of that row. Like, I want to be in the center, but okay. But and eventually I turned to my left, and you were sitting next to me, just waiting to be called on stage. And we had a little joke. Are you waiting for the speaker too? I hope it's any good. and that's how we got introduced to each other. And later we had dinner with Catherine, and there it clicked.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground. As we sort of get to a close of this, what would you like people to know?
In my opinion, and in your work, focus is such an important topic. It's way more than productivity. Focus is part of attention. Attention, another word for attention is awareness. So you can even call it's about life. And getting a grip on focus helps you not only to get more stuff done during the day, but also, being more present, enjoying more of life. There was another study that I came across that 50% of our life goes by without ever knowing it, because we're not aware of it. Being focused, being present helps you to enjoy life more. More focus leads to a better life.
Yay.
Yay.
So Mark, if people wanted to get in touch with you or find out more about your work or what you guys are doing, how could they do that?
Yeah, our main website is focusacademy.com. So that's the main site. There you can find our mini introduction training, our books, and the actual trainings that we give. And as mentioned before, griponfocus.com is the free mini course that we offer for people to get introduced to our work.
Good. Thank you, Mark. I wish the heck I had as much awareness as you have at your age. I'm probably twice your age right now, and I'm just starting to get there too. So anyway, good work. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, David.